Greetings and welcome to a Prayerful Pause. I'm Nancy Woodworth-Hill, a spiritual director and companion, among other things. So today we continue with my series on forgiveness. So this is the 8th segment, and I thought a bit of a review might be helpful. So first, we briefly examine the biblical basis for forgiveness, noting that forgiveness is critical in the biblical tradition. And not only is forgiveness a quality of the living God, Jesus connects forgiveness with living into the kingdom of God or the kingdom of heaven. Second, we took a look at 7 things that forgiveness is not, exposing many lies attributed to the path to forgiveness. It's not about making nice, denying something bad happened, nor should it be emotional manipulation. It's not a commodity to be purchased or earned. It is not weakness or a subversion of justice or forgetting. Third, in looking at aspects of what forgiveness is, we noted it's about releasing our grip on old wrongs, restoring peace, and perhaps mending the relationship. We spoke about the challenge of letting go and wondering about shifting language to letting be. And we explored the 3 faces of compassion: tenderness, mischievousness, and fierceness, giving permission to speak fiercely against wrongs as a legitimate path of compassion. Fourth, we looked at the transformative power of these 3 faces of compassion. In essence, these are temporal manifestations of eternal loving kindness. It means that these faces are how God's loving kindness is shown in our world, which is bound by time. Fifth, we examined a path of entering forgiveness through reframing resentments, which requires the reframing of a demand that the past be different into a preference, noting that forgiveness is something we do in the present to let go of or let be the demand that the past be different. We also looked at the challenge of seeking and satisfying safety and justice objections to forgiveness. Sixth, we looked at grief, a potential block to resolving resentments. And 7th, we looked at several situations which seem to block forgiveness. These require that we grow our own spirit, seeking ways to fall into or release ourselves into God's forgiveness and love. So we're going to examine the challenges of forgiving God and forgiving oneself, although aspects of the latter were covered in the 5th segment. It's not uncommon to carry huge resentment against God. While we may not be fully aware of our expectations and where they come from, we may blame God for something that did or did not happen, or that God allowed something bad to happen. In essence, we are demanding that God do something differently. What God are we resenting? It may be helpful to examine what shape our God has. Is God a cosmic cop who rides around the universe waiting to catch us doing wrong? Is God a Marquis de God who is vicious and capricious, inflicting pain and suffering on people? Is God a cosmic bellhop, ready to get whatever we ask for? Is God a janitor, ready to clean up all of our messes? These and other gods need to be fired, so to speak. Do we have objections to seek and satisfy before asking these crazy gods to leave? And we may need to get a new God, one that is not modeled on parents or our 5-year-old understanding of God. 5-year-old meaning when we were age 5. We need a God of unconditional love and forgiveness. It's also the case that the individual most often in need of forgiveness may be ourselves, because we stayed trapped in our own guilt, shame, blame, and endless shoulds and oughts about actions, feelings, and thoughts in the past. It may be helpful to distinguish guilt from shame. Shame has to do with who I am. Guilt is about what I did. We may demand of ourselves perfection, but this isn't possible. When we examine our guilt, it's helpful to consider what we would have preferred that we had done, releasing ourselves into a loving, forgiving future. As I've hinted at in earlier segments, we don't forgive alone. As Rev Voyle notes, we don't have to forgive someone on our own. We can become part of God's forgiveness for them. In essence, forgiveness is not something we do, it's something we join or become one with. Because forgiveness is ultimately about living into our future free from resentment and suffering, the path to forgiveness is essentially about releasing a person from our demands so that we can surrender, let go, let be both ourselves and the other person into the unconditional love that God has for us all. In this love, God can let the person take responsibility for their lives, free from our manipulation, expectations, and desires, and we can turn from the past injury and take responsibility for ourselves and creating our future in a manner consistent with our values. I am indebted to the wisdom of both the Rev Dr. Rev Voyle and his book Restoring Hope, and to L. William Countryman in his book Forgiven and Forgiving, as well as my own struggles with acts of forgiveness. Next time, I'm going to introduce the first of two processes for forgiveness and gaining inner freedom.